Hey everybody, this is the Drive On Podcast, where we talk about issues affecting veterans after they get out of the military. I'm your host, Scott DeLuzio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Drive On Podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a minute to ask a quick favor from the people who are listening. So the point of this podcast is to help veterans through sharing stories like the one we're about to hear today. But it can't really help if no one hears the story. So if you would, hit pause for a second and head on over to driveonpodcast/subscribe, where you can find links to subscribe to the show and review the show on your favorite podcasting app. And if you wouldn't mind taking a second to share the podcast on social media or even directly to a friend who you think might benefit by listening to the podcast, I'd really appreciate it. All right. So today, my guest is Steve Alvarez. We served together in the Connecticut Army National Guard, and we deployed together to Afghanistan in 2010. But that wasn't his only trip to the Middle East, which I'm sure he'll discuss here in a bit. But Steve, welcome to the show. Why don't you introduce yourself for anyone who doesn't know you and kind of let people know who you are?
How you doing, Scott? First of all, man, thanks a lot for having me here, and it's really good to hear your voice. And I feel it's an honor to be on this show, first and foremost. I really appreciate this. Like you pretty much hit the nail on the head with the introductions. Steve Alvarez. I served from July 27th of 1999 until July 27th of 2016. I left the military as an E6 staff sergeant, and I rose up to the ranks from private E nothing all the way up to staff sergeant. Took many roles throughout the military, and the military was my full-time job. And like Scott said, Scott and I deployed back to Afghanistan together in 2010. And before that, I went to Iraq from March of 04 December of 04 was the MOBUP until May of 2005.
Awesome.
Sorry, all right, January 2004. Yeah.
Okay. No problem. So anyways, part of the show, we like to talk about the struggles that sometimes some vets have gone through and some of the ways that they kind of work their way out of those struggles and the coping mechanisms and all those types of things. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit about kind of your background, maybe some of the struggles that you went through, either during your time in the military, during that time period, because that certainly was a significant length of time to be, in the military, and especially with 2 deployments, you had some stuff going on, I'm sure. But even after the military, after getting out, I'm sure a lot of people have transition issues and things like that. So I'm thinking that maybe there might have been some of those types of things too. So what were some of those struggles that maybe you went through that you might want to share with the people who are listening?
Well, I think, the biggest struggle I have now when I look back at it is I see myself when I was younger as like, I didn't have much perspective, if I could say it at best. I was very, when I enlisted at 17 years old, I was very tunnel vision, pretty much, through the next 15, 16 years of my life. And, I'd say the biggest thing, one of the struggles about getting out was just kind of figuring it out again and just really trying to figure out where to start and really trying to find who you truly are. That was a huge struggle.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely sort of relate with that, and I have also through this podcast and talking to other veterans, I found that like you're not unique with that. Like there's definitely other veterans who felt the same type of thing when they got out, that you're in the military and your day to day is basically planned for you. You
absolutely
wake up at a certain time, you do PT at a certain time, you come into work at a certain time, you leave work at a certain time. Like everything is pretty much laid out for you. And when you get out, it's just kind of like, do whatever the hell you want. Like you wanna wake up at
Oh
this
yeah.
time, cool. If you don't, then don't. And do whatever. And it's very unstructured. And I think a lot of people, especially veterans who are just getting out, struggle with that quite a bit. And that lack of structure
Yeah. It
that
was.
comes from there.
I 100% agree. It was because you're kind of left to your own vices, and you're kind of left to your own will, your own free will. But
Mm-hmm.
even in the military, throughout your time in the military, even guys that were in guard that did 1 week in a month and 2 weeks in the summer, and even guys that deployed, it. Excuse me, for the lack of better words, it's like even if you're in a rut, if you feel like you're distracted by something, no matter what, there's always somebody there to kind of gut check you and say, no matter what's happening in your life, you got to think about the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to push a lot of things away personally. And then when you get out into the regular world, you realize that there's very few people in your life now that can go ahead and tell you that, hey, think about the mission, because now it's like it's a whole nother mission, and you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with you know frustration and aggravation, because obviously it's kind of probably a love-hate relationship most of the times coming out of the military.
Mm-hmm.
And you're dealing with aggravation of civilian world and the way the world works. And a lot of times I think guys, well, at least me personally, what my struggle was that I was like pointing the finger out a lot and just saying, this is wrong, you guys are wrong, like this is wrong, wrong, wrong. And I think it came to a point where I kind of matured, and I started saying, hold on a minute, like this is a way I had to think in order to do certain jobs and perform a certain task. Like this is, and that was one phase in my life. So it was almost like a growing up period. It was like I really had to. I mean, you've seen pictures of me recently, a beard and hair, and I really
You're
had
definitely not the
to.
clean cut guy that you were.
No, no, no. But I definitely had to like completely like divest myself and just kind of like let go of all inhibitions and just open my mind more. And as soon as that started to happen, you started realizing that like there is actually a life outside of the military. Like these people aren't wrong, or these, this ideal isn't wrong or anything like that. It's just different. That was
Yeah.
where I would say the biggest mindset is in the military when we were in is what's right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Where now in the civilian world, it's like there is different and then there's different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there is no real right or wrong if somebody, if really with anything. And I mean, it was just, that was one of my biggest struggles right there, was just dealing with pointing the finger out instead of looking in and seeing what had to be fixed within me.
Right. And the strange thing too, and I've talked about this with some other people before too, is that we all were civilians at one point. We all came from a place where we had no military background. We had no basic training drilled into us. We had none of that stuff really drilled into us. And then all of a sudden we come out of the military and it's like a whole new world that we feel like we've never seen before. But however long you were in, whether it was 5 years or 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, it like, if you look back that far, like you used to live that way. You used to live in that same civilian world where you didn't have the military background that you're so used to right now. So it's like you said, it's kind of looking in yourself and kind of recentering or refocusing, whatever you want to call it, to get yourself back to that time that you were. Not saying like go forget about all your experience or whatever, but kind of get yourself back into that mindset of how you lived your life before, and take some of the good from your military experience and carry that along, with you as well. Some of the discipline and other things like that. But definitely that is not a, and especially to anyone who's listening, you're not alone with that. Like that is definitely a big, common issue that people do have. And I wish I had a better answer in terms of like how do you get over that. But maybe you do. Maybe you have a something that uh, you've done to kind of help yourself, work through some of those issues, or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, what I honestly, what happened with me was probably about 3.5 years ago. I was on a lot of medications, coming out of the VA immediately
Hmm.
when I ETS out of service, and I had gotten contacted by the VA, and at that time, I wasn't too good with my diet. I was depressed really bad. I had a lot of emotions carrying on from years and years of baggage, and I got a phone call one day from the doctor, and the doctor pretty much told me that my blood level there I had levels in my blood that were so high that I could have a stroke at any moment.
Oh gosh.
I mean, like, the doctor pretty much said I've only had to call two patients ever in my 27-year career to yell at them like this, but whatever you're doing, you need to stop.
Hmm.
And then at that point, I mean, I just kind of looked at myself and I said, you know what? Like, I have to figure this out because, like, at that point, I had my kids. Um, and I was going through a lot of depression, a lot of stuff that everybody goes through. I don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but
No,
um,
sure.
but I really had to go ahead and give myself a gut check, and I started looking at a healthier way of life. I stopped taking a lot of medications that were prescribed to me. For at that time I was diagnosed right around my ETS with diabetes and um, a whole host of other ailments. And I just kind of gave up the pharmaceuticals and I got on a really good, strict regimen of dieting. And I started working out again in martial arts. I had previous martial arts experience, and
Hmm.
I started training in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And just that was kind of the foundation. And 1 month turned into 2 months, really focusing my diet, not drinking. Just really watching what I was doing health wise and really getting into it and really dropping all the pharmaceuticals. And it was just each month I kept feeling better and better and better. I kept sleeping better. And then what I started doing was I started doing small things that would like chin check me in the morning. So like even now on my phone at 7 o'clock every single morning, 0700, um, I have a alarm set that says be grateful for 5 things in your life.
Okay.
I started changing my attitude. I started
Yep.
looking at my attitude instead of more like a fatalistic attitude, like, because we can become very cynical, through
Hmm.
experiences going overseas, especially some listeners out there I know that have been deployed probably, 7, 8 times. That's a lot, man. And you get real cynical of the world because of your experiences, unfortunately. And that's
Hmm.
no fault to you, and that's no fault to the world either. Um,
Yeah, in a way,
yeah,
I think that that's actually a like a coping mechanism to some extent. With all the um, you know the bad stuff that you see when you're deployed, and that you go through and experience. The cynicism is almost a way to kind of cope with that, and almost in a way maybe not make it so real. So you're not like normally you would probably be so down and depressed by seeing all of this bad stuff. But if you are have a more cynical attitude, maybe it protects you in a way. I'm not sure.
yeah, I fully believe it because the thing is that when you suffer amounts of trauma, when you suffer trauma, period, I mean, your body goes into a natural protective state, and you're going to
Hmm.
figure out how to like grow tough skin because you don't want to feel vulnerable because you're not ready to deal with that trauma yet. So I
Right.
mean and when I had the phone call from the doctor, that was the gut check, and I really had to let go of like a lot of the cynicism I had and just really just have more of a positive outlook on life, more like I changed my mission. That's
Hmm.
exactly the way I look at it. I changed my mission and I refocused my purpose. A lot of guys that I've spoken to personally, when they come out, a lot of them are like, "Hey man, I feel like I don't have a purpose or whatever." But in reality, it's like we all have a purpose. It doesn't matter whether you're purposing one friend,
Hmm.
or whether you're whether you're a janitor, whether you're a, sportscast announcer, whatever. You have a purpose. And as soon as I actually started telling myself that, and I started coming out of the funk. Now, trust me, Scott, it's peaks and valleys. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like it's never. I'm not sitting here telling you that it's all sunshine and roses, because I do have my bouts. But the more you become aware that, hey man, I've been through some stuff. I really got to deal with that, and I really got to deal with why I'm acting the way I'm acting. I really got to deal with why I feel the way I feel. I really got to deal with, just how I am. And the thing is that through that deep dive into that, whether however you want to do it, whether via therapy, whether
Hmm.
via just coping with a friend, whatever method you choose, healthy wise. Now let me just caveat that healthy.
Right.
Um, but you really have to come back to finding who you really are through all that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And in order to do that, you got to work through all that stuff.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do that, you
Absolutely.
can go, and as soon as you go ahead and forgive yourself and say, you know what, it's all right that I can be angry every once in a while. Because I think, like, for me, every time I would get angry or every time I would get frustrated, it almost seemed like I was getting even more frustrated, that I couldn't calm down.
Right.
It
Yeah.
would almost
And
be
it,
like a jet fuel.
yeah, it's like an endless cycle. Like you're angry over this one thing, and then you're angry that you can't calm down, and then that because you're not calming down, you're getting more angry, and you just keep on cycling through that, and it's definitely not a helpful situation
Yeah,
to
and
be in.
and like internal dialogue would be like, why am I letting this beat me? This, and that.
Hmm.
Like almost taking like a very brute stance to it, when I started changing my mindset and saying, Steve, it's okay to be angry right now, man. It's all
Yeah.
right. And just take 5 minutes and be angry. Like, dude, I swear, as soon as I started focusing it, like, it's all right that this is happening, instead of trying to fight it, it almost became easier to let it go.
Hmm.
And then over the years, it's just been now, I mean, things that would go ahead and send me into a world of poopville would, now I just kind of brush off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
pick and choose my battles. Now, like I said, it's peaks and valleys, but I'm sure it's tough. It's tough at times, you know?
Yeah, and it's probably, the longer you kind of stay this course, it's probably easier to get out of those valleys than it was way back when, when you were first, maybe when you first got out, when you were getting into these valleys, and it was almost like you're down, in this huge deep trench, and you just weren't able to climb back out, and or if you were slipping along the way, so it maybe took you a little bit longer to get out. um, and I read a book a couple months ago. It's called Atomic Habits, and this kind of goes along the lines of what you were talking about, in terms of making these little changes, and it's stuff that doesn't change necessarily overnight, but you know, changing your attitude towards how you perceive things that you were maybe getting angry at, or whatever. Um, those little tiny changes that you make, maybe you're changing your attitude towards this one little thing that's getting you angry, and then the next day you change your attitude towards something else, and you're not making wholesale changes right off the bat, but you're making these little tiny changes, and eventually those changes become habit, and it makes it that much easier to cope with whatever the issues are that you're having, as you go through, because it's now just how you deal with things. It becomes part of
Absolutely.
part of who you are, and what you're how you identify with yourself. Basically, it's I'm
Absolutely.
not the type of person who flips their lid over this thing that used to get me upset. The type of person who now, sees it for what it is, and yeah, it sucks, but I'll be mad about it for a couple minutes, and then I'll move on because I realize that it's not all that important.
Absolutely. And I mean, the best part about that too is like that kind of thought. Now that progressive thinking, it's like you put your character into that, your true character. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, I think another big struggle I had coming out too was lack of compassion. Period.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Sure.
just I don't think there's any more going into that. What her definition was, just compassion. It was not there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely can relate to that as well. I feel like I might have struggled a little bit with that as well. Going through that. Um, so, well, I know you've been up to a few different things going on, and I think some of these things we haven't really talked about this, so I'm taking a leap here with my assumptions, and I could be totally off. But I think some of these things might kind of fall in line with some of the stuff that you were talking about in terms of the activities that you might have been doing to kind of help you out with getting through some of these issues. But recently, I saw you're involved with some with a yoga studio, so you're doing some stuff at that studio. Are you? You want to talk a little bit about that and how that might kind of play into?
Absolutely. Just to backtrack a little bit, I had made mention of doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Now I've
Yeah.
been doing it, like I said, since I got that news. So roughly about 3.5 years going now, and I had suffered a back injury probably about a year into it, and um, it was it was recommended to me by the doctor that to get into more movement, into more stretching. So at that point, I had started watching some YouTube videos on some yoga, and I was doing it in the living room. I'm like, I'm gonna give this a shot, and I started to notice improvements virtually immediately.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was like, well, this is interesting. So I started taking a couple, community classes here and there. And then I just kind of fell in love with it. And at that point, like by sheer happenstance, um, a colleague of my wife at work, who's affiliated with the yoga school that I've now am alumni of, she even mentioned to her saying, "Hey, have you ever had Steve try out yoga?" Because Melanie's made mention to her before about my trauma and dealing with such and so on.
Hmm.
And at that time, I was doing jujitsu, but it was almost like it was working, but it was like there still needed. It was like you had a chili going on, but it still needed that little bit of something going. So
I like that analogy.
it was the best, like, and I'll go into why jujitsu for me later on. What is very, very, I feel personally pivotal for veterans, especially. But
Okay.
at that moment, she had gone ahead and suggested that. Anyway, long story forward, I went to this open house, and it was at West Hartford Yoga in Connecticut. And I sat in a circle, and everybody kind of just gave their story of like, why they were there and introduced themselves a little bit. And they were handing out pamphlets, and the course was a 6 month long course. You have to dedicate one weekend each month, and it's to really dive into learning how to instruct yoga, not only instruct yoga, but a lot of the philosophy behind yoga and a lot of the teachings and the ways and the mindsets. Now, I wouldn't even say mindsets, but the opinions, just a lot of different writings and so on and so forth. So I realized how much it actually costs, and I was like, whoa, okay, so I got to figure something out. And then my wife came up with the idea, hey, why don't you try having, your federal benefits for your GI Bill? Because we have the
Yeah.
Post 9/11 GI Bill. And I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. So I contacted the VA. I gave them the program. And long story short, now a year and a half later, I graduated that school. I was the first veteran to go through that school and help pioneer a way for veterans to use their federal benefits going through to be yoga instructors. It opened my eyes to a lot. Like I said, about compassion and about a positive way of thinking. Um, and it helped me health wise, like blood flow, all the little aches and pains that I know a lot of listeners are probably suffering from as we speak. If you're adjusting yourself in the chair, your lower back, if you have
Yeah.
problems with your knees, so on, whatever, all the way up to GI issues, Scott.
Yeah.
I kid you not. Doing yoga has taken my life and just kind of put it over the saddle for me. And
And it probably
I,
helps. It probably
I'm sorry.
helps, like mentally too, in terms of like not being like, I can't believe my back is hurting or my knees are hurting, my, whatever is hurting, like again, like I'm not this 65-year-old guy that, or, 70-year-old guy or whatever that is, going to just expect to have all these aches and pains at that point. You're young enough, you shouldn't be having all those kind of aches and pains, and that probably takes a toll mentally on you as well. But now that things are improving for you in terms of the physical health, it probably improves the mental health as well.
Oh, a thousandfold. And I mean, what's great about both yoga and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that both practices put you in a very cathartic state, because you force yourself to have to live in the moment. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of what we have to do in the military. You have to live for the moment. Like, no matter what's going on at home, no matter what's going on in your financial life, your love life, your social life, if you're on mission, like none of that matters.
Yep.
And you have to have a focus on the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And those are my healthy releases for that. And it still trains my brain and it still makes me feel that. But now also with yoga combined with it, the thinking of yoga now is, instead of just, getting upset about things that aren't in your control, like just
Mm-hmm.
accepting things that are in your control. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you were saying before, you blow your top for something, before that, now you would just look at it and accept for what it is and just say, hey, there's nothing I can do about it. Let's say you back into a guy's car, 2 months after getting home from Afghanistan, you're going to flip out and you're going to be like, holy creeps, this is ridiculous. Now you're just going to back up and say, damn, that sucks. Well, good thing I got insurance. I'm going to take a picture of it. It's all set.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a much healthier way, from a mental health anyways, perspective, much healthier way to deal with it, and instead of just completely flipping out on whatever it is,
Absolutely. It's just, it feels better.
Yeah, exactly. It does. And let's talk music. Condition Zero. What, you want to talk a little bit about that, or?
Yes, sir, I do.
Awesome.
If you guys want to follow us, we're at Condition Zero Metal on Instagram. You can follow us there. I just had to put that plug. Thanks, Scott. Yeah. These four guys that I'm with in this band, it's a melodic metalcore band. I am the vocalist, and these four guys that I'm with, we really believe in our story, our way. These guys are probably one of the other reasons why I'm still living and I'm still here. These guys helped me get through a lot, and they encourage an artistic side. And going back to readings, of Shang Tzu and the Art of War and so on and so forth, most warriors going throughout history, up until the modern warrior now, the modern day American Army warrior or service warrior, period. There's a lot of history of warrior poets. And I kind of just, while I was in yoga, I did a lot of writings, because a lot of my assignments in yoga had to do a lot of reflection of your life and have to do a lot of writings on that. And I continued that writing. And project now, we were in a project before when I was, it was called Venom Morris, and I filled in for the lead singer. And that project had ended, and then we had started this project, and we've been at it. We released in December, and it's a great ride. It allows me and allows these guys to just be who we want to be on stage. And then I think that's kind of like the cake topper. It's like, boom.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I allow myself to just be what I want to be in the moment. And if you're noticing the pattern of all three of them, it's in the moment.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff going around, you know. I got 2 kids, I'm married, I got a career, you know what I mean? I get bills, the dog,
Hmm.
you know. All this stuff weighs
Life.
on you.
It's just life.
Exactly. And I
So
think, to be perfectly honest with you, through all that, like these 4 guys, man, they're so pinnacle of me being here in my life.
that's awesome.
I love every one of them, and to be honest with you, they're close. They're as close to me as the guys were in the military for me. You know what I mean?
That's
And none
great.
of them
Yeah.
are vets either, and
Hmm.
it's just they we ride together, and
Yeah.
we have our ups and our downs as any band would. But
Hmm.
you know what, dude? We are the genuine brotherly love there, and
Yep.
all that brings it back to it. Have for me, I had to really, in order to live in these moments, I really had to push other moments away after I dealt with them. Um,
Right.
I still go through therapy now. It's 100% healthy. I have no shame in saying that I go through therapy. Sometimes I attend, you know, more than one session a week. And if that's
Okay.
what's needed to be done, then so be it. And that's
Hmm.
okay. Then it's okay to go ahead and let those feelings out. I think a lot of
Yeah,
times
absolutely.
being in the military, we get so macho and we beat our chest so much that like we forget that there are healthy ways to release this and talking. And you know, there's no need to be tough anymore when you get out. You know,
Yeah.
what are you going to hold, the front line of your front yard? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like stay off the grass.
Exactly. Like you're going to be out there with your hose and you know what, a rake. Stay away.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, exactly. Like there's a time and a place for where we were. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it echoes in my head constantly. The movie We Were Soldiers Once and Young. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yes, we were soldiers once and young. We were young. We had our purpose there. Now we have a new purpose. What I encourage people is like, if you feel like you don't have a direction, trust me, it's there.
Yeah.
Um, you just have to go ahead and repurpose your thought. That's all you have to do.
Hmm.
You just got to go ahead and say, you really got to come to terms. I think that was one of the biggest hurdles too, was coming to terms that I am no longer in the military. I
Yeah.
am no longer in the world's most destructive and most powerful fighting force. Like, where
And you
do
don't
I
need to
go?
be that guy.
Exactly. Like you don't need to be that person anymore, and
Yeah.
that's okay. So that's
Yeah.
forgiveness. Like it's all right. Like, but make no mistake. Like, so it's still find healthy outlets. Still train if you need to train. Still, you know, boxing, martial arts. If you like to go shooting, fine. You know what I mean. Whatever helps
Hmm.
you skill sharp, fine. You know what I mean.
Hmm.
But just remember though that purpose that you're doing that for is to just fulfill that need. It's not a purpose
Yep.
anymore. Your purpose is, you know, whatever it is that you're meant to be. You
Yep.
know, if like I said, you can be a janitor, have a purpose. But yeah, you just got to figure out what your purpose is, man, and you just have to accept it and just know that you're you're awesome. I guess.
Yeah, no, I got you there. All right, one last question before we wrap this up, and
Sure,
I
man.
like to ask this to everyone that I have on the show, and you can answer this however you want. You can, you know, if you want to lighten things up with a joke or you want to be serious, whatever, it's cool. However you want to answer it, there's no wrong answer here. So the question is there anything that you wish someone would have told you before you joined the military? Any
Hmm.
kind of advice or things like that that you could have taken through your career or whatever?
Oh man, that's a tough one because for as much as I probably would have told myself that it's gonna suck a lot more than it's awesome.
Yeah.
I would have gave myself the 99% to one. The I was given this speech by Captain Steve McQueenie at the time, and we were cold as f, leaning against. I don't know if I could swear on the
Yeah, go
podcast or
ahead.
not.
Whatever.
Well, it was cold as fuck. Like I couldn't feel my feet, and he gave me this speech, and the speech like rings through and through to me. It's a 99% to one.
Yep.
Realize that 99% of the time, the military is going to fucking suck. It is, you're getting up at 4:00 in the fucking morning. Why? I don't know. Like, you're walking to one place to be there at 6 a.m., not to move until 11 a.m. Why? I don't know. You have to burn shit. Like,
Yeah.
like you're getting yelled at. Like, it fucking sucks. You're away from home. Like, you're sharing a porta potty, or you're in an open area pooping right next to your best friend or whatever. You're farting. You guys are joking. Everybody's making fun of each other. There's guys fighting. All that shit sucks.
Yeah.
But at one point or another, when you're in the Army, you're going to go ahead, especially like when you're around 18 or 19 years old, and you're going to be in a helicopter, and you're going to be like, I cannot believe I'm getting paid for this shit.
I know. I remember I was in basic training, and we were doing the 50 cal range, and I was sitting there, and I was rocking away, and I was like, I can't believe they're actually paying me right now to sit here and like just shoot a machine gun down a range and just start like destroying some stuff. That was like the greatest time.
Absolutely. You know? Like in that specklet of time, all that shit burning, fart smelling, joke cracking, fist fight having, all that bullshit didn't matter.
No.
You know what I mean? And it's that moment in time. It's the same way, like, you know, you finally get overseas, for those listeners who have been over to the box before. When you finally get over there, and especially like all of us have been there, if you get into it, none of that shit matters that you just had to spend the last 3 days inventorying a vehicle or getting the comms right in the fucking trucks. You know what I mean? Or dealing with the fact that there's big ass camel spiders in the fucking bathrooms and you don't want to go take a shit.
Right. Yeah.
like you forget about that. You forget about every bit of that. And for that moment, it's like all of it was worth it. So all that 99% bullshit to 1% awesomeness. Just remember, but that 1% awesomeness is pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? And the thing is, what I can tell my younger self is take a lot of the takeaways from the 1% instead of focusing on the 99%.
There you go. Yeah, so focus on the good.
And that's throughout life, period.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is an awesome takeaway to have for that. And great advice, you know, to anyone who might be listening who is about to join the military or early enough on in their career. That's great advice to have, that, you know, it's going to suck a lot. And I can attest to that as well. It does suck a lot. That was not just like your personal experience. It does suck a lot. But
it sucks.
There is some good in there, you know. You'll find the good and focus on that. Remember those things, and move on from there, and kind of just let the other crap just kind of roll off. So, all right. Well, it looks like we're coming up on time here for this episode, but thank you again for joining me and sharing your story and everything else that we talked about today. That was really great. And I'm going to have links to all the stuff that we talked about in the show notes. So anyone who's looking for resources or whatever, I'll have links to all that in the show notes. And so thank you again.
Thank you so much, Scott. It was an honor to be on the show. If there's any of our brothers that we were with listening, man, I love every one of you guys. Don't feel free to reach out, man. And all the listeners, man, just remember there's always hope. And drive on, man. Mission is
awesome.
A purpose.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Drive On Podcast. If you want to check out more episodes or learn more about the show, you can visit our website, driveonpodcast.com, or on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Drive On Podcast.